Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys and offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by J.P. Morgan Chase, a partner in financial planning. Looking ahead to retirement, growing your business, or for commercial banking, J.P. Morgan Chase offers advice and solutions tailored to individual needs and client well-being. More information is at jpmorganchase.com. And by Luba Workers' Comp, a regional insurance carrier dedicated to providing reliable workers' compensation coverage to employers and workers in 13 states across the Southeast. With personalized service, trusted expertise, and tailored solutions, Luba helps businesses protect what matters most. Discover more at lubawc.com.
From Tsunami Sushi in downtown Lafayette, we're out to lunch with Christiaan Mader, editor and publisher of The Current. It's business, Acadiana style.
Welcome to Out to Lunch. I'm Christiaan Mader. Farming isn't what it used to be. Louisiana has lost thousands of small farms over the last few decades. The average farmer is now over 58. Land prices keep going up, commodity prices keep wobbling, and modern farming techniques are more about scale, not necessarily stewardship of the land. And so the small independent farmer, the icon of the American landscape, is by and large disappearing, but not everyone is signed up to go quietly. My guests today are young cattle farmers who've thrown out the conventional big ag playbook, putting their sweat equity into sustainable practices that emphasize high standards of animal care and meat quality. But their meat story starts with a meat cute in an animal science lab. Molly LeJeune met Hayden LeJeune while at McNeese State. She is from Little Cypress, Texas, where her family owned a big piece of land her grandfather once farmed. And the land stayed in the family even after the farming stopped, which meant Molly grew up with a kind of open-ended question. What should this land be? That question followed her into high school, where her family started buying beef from a woman practicing sustainable agriculture, and that was Molly's light bulb moment. I think I could do that, she thought. And by the time she graduated, she decided she wanted to farm, and not just farm, but farm differently. At McNeese, she built her own curriculum, regenerative farming, soil biology, direct-to-consumer models, and meanwhile, about 80 miles east, Hayden LeJeune was growing up on a rice, crawfish, and cattle farm in Richard. And like a lot of farm kids, he wanted to stay on the land, but the math didn't quite work. Most small farms can barely support one family, much less two. So Hayden went to McNeese for agribusiness, figuring he'd become a feed rep or crop consultant and farm on the side like most everybody else. And then he met Molly. And by the time they graduated, Hayden's dad decided to get out of cattle and handed his son a small starter herd. And today, Molly and Hayden run Cypress Prairie Farms, a regenerative beef operation in Richard with about 40 head of cattle on 70 acres. No pesticides, no fertilizers, no grain byproducts, no antibiotics. Their cows rotate on pasture to rebuild soil, reduce pests naturally, and create something rare these days, a farm that is building land instead of depleting it. Molly and Hayden, welcome to Out to Lunch, Acadiana.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to be
here.
here.
That was probably the best introduction I've heard, of us. Whoever wrote that did a good job.
That was grand.
I can copy that and just email it to you.
Sounds
if you just want to send it, you're welcome to have it.
Yes,
and you're welcome to have it.
Yeah.
So what you guys do is really fascinating to me. And one thing that really caught my attention, though, was just like the volume here, right? Like if you're processing, say, 10 cattle a year as opposed to hundreds or thousands or however much sort of bigger farms do, like how are you even sort of, no pun intended, carving that up to make money? I mean, like, is like, it just strikes me that's such a small amount of meat to produce a year.
It is, I guess, but I did update our numbers. We had to book another butcher because we're running out faster than we thought.
Okay.
So for this year, we'll be up to 13, which
Wow.
is, I guess a good thing.
Yeah.
Kind of surprising, but yeah, I mean, I think the economics are a little bit different when you're not trying to supply like a grocery store or anything. You know, a lot of people do kind of grow at the rate that we are.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like that much, but at the same time, our expenses are really low because of the way that we do farm.
Yeah.
You know, we're able to save money and not have to put so many inputs into it.
Sure.
You know, and that of course decreases your bottom line that you can achieve. You know.
So I mean, just brass tacks. I mean, how much meat? I feel kind of stupid asking these questions. Maybe sort of the point of all this. I mean, I don't even really have a clear concept of how much you know, you
That
get,
is.
I mean, like how much do you, like one cow, I mean, how many people can that actually feed?
You get about 360 pounds of like
Jeez.
take-home edible meat per cow.
Wow.
You know, we raise them to 2 years old. They're about 1,100 pounds live weight, and then you lose percentages of that to hide, bones, stuff like that, you know.
Wow.
But you get about 360 pounds of like steaks, roast, ground meat, that type of thing.
You know, this is a question I've often had because, I mean, people think about the various cuts of meat, you know, and of course they're priced according to, you know, what people want. There's a market element, but there's also sort of a scarcity element. I mean, like a ribeye, right, tends to be a very expensive cut. I mean, how many ribeyes do you get off of a single cow?
Gosh, we have it on a chart. I mean, I could pull it up.
Go for it. Even a roundabout number is helpful. I'll be like, I have no frame of reference here.
If it helps give you like a frame of reference, say you were a family of 4 and you wanted to know how much meat I would need to buy to last me a year if I'm eating a couple times, that's my dinner a couple times a week. A family of 4 or 5, a whole cow lasts them about a year. If you're eating it a handful of times a week. Some smaller families, or if they're not as big on beef, if you like a lot of chicken and pork and fish and you're more diverse in your meats, like a half cow will last you a year.
So do we have an answer here?
Yes. So 28 ribeyes. Now that's cut 3/4 of an inch thick. So we get 28 3/4 inch ribeyes per whole cow.
Wow.
Whole
Okay.
calf,
So that's a lot more than I would have thought,
Yeah.
just based on how that actually works. I mean, you brought up sort of supplying a whole family by a whole cow or a half a cow. And I've seen, you know, over the years, people will buy into, like, I want to buy a quarter of a cow, right? And they kind of get, I mean, is your model more like when you say direct consumer, you're going to a farmer's market and I can buy your beef there? Or is it more like customers, you say, I want to sign, you're raising the cow and I'd like to sign up to get the whole thing?
Both.
You do both?
We do both.
Is there one that you prefer?
I don't know. I think they both have different pros and cons. I like the more frequent relationship that you get at a farmer's market when you're seeing somebody. Sometimes every Saturday, once a month, just depending on their frequency that they come to the market. But I do like seeing customers more. I feel like there's more of a relationship that's built there. But we do the bulk, is what we call those deliveries. And that's typically like once a year. So you still may see those people, but just not as often. It's, I guess, maybe easier in a sense that you're supplying them for their whole year and you don't have to
wake up every Saturday morning at 5 or 5:30 a.m., you know.
To go be at the market.
Yeah, it's a one and done for the year type thing, but they both have their pros and cons.
And different customers prefer different methods.
So are most people just sort of finding you in the wild that way, or is it, you know, you're marketing it differently? I mean, I guess I'm sort of thinking about the person that, is it that they buy, say, a pack of beef, right? Like some hamburger steaks or something at the farmer's market, and they're like, okay, I've got a taste for this.
Right.
And now I want to sign up for the whole cow. I mean, is it that kind of the customer journey that you tend to think about, or is it more like people who looking for bulk cattle know to come and find you?
Yes and no. I would say people do seek us out for the bulk. But even like, for example, my mom doesn't want a whole cow. You know, she wants, because people like to pick and choose. You have to get creative when you have bulk like that, and there's cuts that you're not familiar with. And so we do our best. I make like a whole recipe book that has all the cuts and what to do with them to try to help that unfamiliarity. But like some people just want their ground meat and their few steaks that they're familiar with, and so they'll come to you repeat once a month or whatever because that's what they want, that's what they're used to. So it just depends. People are different.
I've noticed a lot of people don't really have the freezer space for the bulk beef too, you know, like even a quarter is 90 pounds of take-home beef, and like most, it'll fit in like a small chest freezer, you know, but like most people still don't have that small chest freezer anywhere in their home. They don't have the space for it, or it's just inconvenient to, you know, see it right there, you know. You gotta walk around it or whatever in your garage. So
my mom once bought us like a half a cow, and I have 3 brothers and sisters, and I feel like I was getting, you know, beef deliveries unsolicited for about 2 years. Where Mom was sort of like, can you please just come to my freezer and take some beef, because she filled up her freezer with it. And I was impressed at how long it lasted. I mean, really. And that was family of 6, and then, you know, we were all, of course, by then adults with our own kids, and so my mom was feeding a lot of kids with, you know, that half a cattle. It was kind of impressive to see, you know, and like it was a single purchase that lasted a long time. I mean, Hayden, I'm curious, because you had a background in this, right? You come from a family who's doing this kind of farming. I mean, I do want to talk about the farming methods, but I still want to focus a bit more for a second on sort of the sales side. I mean, it was even the sort of sales component of what you did. Is this different than how you were doing it sort of with your family before? I mean, the direct-to-consumer model, were you generally raising cattle to sell to a supplier of some kind?
Yeah, so growing up, my dad had cattle, but we always sold to like the auctions and stuff. It was always the calves were weaned at like 6 months of age, and then we'd take them off the moms, put them on a trailer, drive to the like Kinder livestock, or there's one in Opelousas too. So like the nearest livestock auction is where we bring them to, and that was that. You know, after that, you were done for the year with the cattle, you know, and it made sense because my dad also had, you know, rice and crawfish and stuff like that. So we didn't really have the time to put into, you know, thoroughly raising and taking this the whole, you know, from birth to finish, that type of thing, you know, with the other enterprises on the farm and stuff. But yeah, a lot different.
Did that mean that you sort of had to unlearn some things or relearn some things to take this approach?
Well, it sort of did. I mean, we can get into the whole thing. Okay, whenever Molly and I met, I wasn't totally sold on the business idea and stuff like that. But we heard from a county agent or parish. I don't know, county.
It was for like the ag divisions, right?
Yeah,
like LSU
yeah. So it was like an ag.
The LSU extension
exactly.
office.
Yeah. So he came and talked to us, and I don't know, some light bulb just went off, and he was like, you know, most cattle that we raise are grass fed, and I was like, yeah, he's kind of right. You know, we feed hay in the wintertime and have grass in the summer. It's a really low input system. You know, we don't pump them full of feed and stuff like that. You know, some farmers will like creep feed, what they call, where the calves can slip in through a little feeder and they can get some feed, but that just increases weaning weights. But so basically, we one time had a cow. She was an older cow, like took over the herd, you know. She was an older cow, and she had parasites, worms, you know. And so I didn't know anything about like natural worming methods or anything like that. So I just dewormed her, right? Week went by, she never got any better. So my dad said, well, you got to deworm her again. So I dewormed her again. Another week went by. She no signs of. I mean, she still ate and she like go out, follow the herd, eat and everything, you know. But she didn't get any better. So I said, well, what can we do to like do something natural to boost her immune system, you know? So at that point, I already heard about all these natural things, but I never actually practiced them. So we used the C90 garlic salt. It's basically a sea mineral salt.
Like garlic salt?
It's got garlic. Yes,
Pre-seasoned. No.
I have some garlic salt in my house.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's garlic salt, and then we also used apple cider vinegar, like the concentrated version.
There's like nothing that apple cider vinegar can't do, right?
Right. Yeah. So we put those things, put the apple cider vinegar in there, like in her water trough where she drinks every day. She's got to drink, and then just put like a tub of the C90 garlic salt out. And I kid you not, within a week, she was like so much better. I didn't explain this fully. They get like bottle jaw, so it's like fluid buildup underneath their jaw. It's like makes their jaw look, you know, elongated, I guess, or droopy or whatever. Sure. And so within a week, that was gone. Like after I started these natural remedies. Some may say all of a sudden the dewormer worked or whatever. I don't believe it because we've had other older cattle since then. You know, it was a genetic thing. I was weeding out the bad ones and stuff like that were left over, the old ones and stuff. But we've had others since then that I've done the same remedy to and have always seen positive results.
Well, suffice it to say, whether it's the cider vinegar or whatever, it seems to have worked at least to convince you that this was worth a shot, right?
Yes.
I mean, so Molly, I mean, your background on this would seem like you've been interested in this almost academically for a long time, right? I mean, so was that coming from sort of an animal welfare kind of thing? Like, this is just not the best way to raise cattle, or was it more just like, this is how I want to do it? I mean, I'm just sort of curious, like, where it came from for you.
I guess all of the above. My mom always raised us to, like, kind of think outside the box sometimes and build your immune system and stuff. Not that, I mean, I don't know how controversial or whatever, but like not that conventional medicine doesn't have its place, you know, but just like maybe to try other things first. And so when we were taking over the cattle, I was like, I just don't like when those things weren't working. I was like, just because this is what people have always done doesn't mean this is what we have to do. Like, these are tools that we can have, yes, but we can also have other tools that may work better or be a first resort or even just be more of a prophylactic, a preventative. So I guess that's how we were raised, and then we kind of kept our animals that way. And so when we had the cattle, he wasn't, like he said, wasn't totally sold on it to begin with. And especially when we had those few that were coming up sick, I was like, I'm telling you, let's just try this,
It was the perfect experiment, right? So, I mean, you had nothing to lose. Like, they were so old, they were frail and everything. Like, we just, we gave this a shot, Nothing other, the conventional, dewormer was not working. So we tried out something else, and it actually, it helped a lot.
You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Christiaan Mader. I'm talking with Hayden and Molly LeJeune of Cypress Prairie Farms. So I would think that, obviously eating clean is becoming a more sort of popular way of thinking about how people construct their diets, right? But even then, most people don't think a whole lot about how their food is raised, right? And so I guess what I'm curious about is, like, once you got your product, were you thinking the people that need to eat this are people who care a lot about sort of the animal welfare, like what goes into it, or is it more the grass-fed, like the element of, it conveys a sense of quality, right? Like the people are like, oh, this is a higher quality cut of beef, it's more local. Like, people come at this, I would imagine, from different motivations. So I guess I'm curious, like, when you developed it, were you thinking the person that's going to buy this just really cares a lot about how I raise my animals, or the person who really buys it just really wants a top quality steak, and that's what I'm selling them?
I wouldn't say we hang our hat on, like, prime ribeyes. You know what I'm saying? Like, our beef is real. It's not, like, how would you say, like top steakhouse marbling and tenderness and all that stuff. Because from, like, a production standpoint of cattle, if I was to raise a cow that's got prime ribeyes every time, always produces prime ribeye calves, stuff like that, a lot of times she's gonna either be high maintenance, meaning she takes more grass to get in her to do that. She's gonna be, like, not heat tolerant or parasite resistant, so I'll have to prop her up with dewormers and stuff like that. There will always, it's kind of like a jack of all trades, I guess. You want a cow that's like a jack of all trades. It's like mutts and dogs, right? So a mutt's almost always, I mean, that's common knowledge. They're going to live longer than a purebred dog,
right?
So there's always something that, like, will lean one way or the other with an animal that, like, if you chase after heat tolerance, like the Brahma cows, their meat's not as tender.
If you chase after one specific trait, you're going to lose other things. So we just focus on having the best all around, the healthiest animals, so we don't have to prop them up with some of those synthetics. And I guess, like, part of the motivation you were asking, like, what was our motivation, or what did we think people were going to come for? It started as I knew that I could raise beef in the way, like, I guess I care more about it maybe than the average person. So I knew that I could raise it to be as clean as my standards. And then I knew, just kind of being in that world, I guess, that there was people like me. And so I was like, if I can raise it for me, and then for some people, just being from a farm is enough. For some people, just being grass-fed is enough. But then some people come up and they want to know, like, exactly what you're giving this animal and exactly what's going into it. And so not everybody cares as much as we do, I guess.
Some people are just buying it for grass-fed, but some people care about, do we fertilize our hay with synthetic fertilizer? Do we give them dewormer? Do we like use antibiotics? Of course not. All those things like that.
That's interesting. I mean, because I didn't realize, it sounds like what you're saying is there's this element of, you can produce sort of prime rib, but that takes this whole other approach to growing it, which may actually produce a product that's easy to manage. I mean, it sounds like a lot of what you're doing here enables you to actually produce beef at a reasonable price. I mean, like, if you're not having to put so much time and effort into maintaining. So then talk to me a little bit more about, how you've begun to think about reaching more people as you've learned your trade. I mean, I understand, of course, you guys have backgrounds in farming, you've gone to school for farming. I mean, are you having to stay in touch with other folks who are operating farms like you? I guess I'm just sort of curious, like, how many other Cypress Prairie farms are there, say, in Louisiana? Is there a wider community out there that we should be aware of?
There is more than you realize. There's the whole, we recently just did an interview with the Louisiana Grazing Lands Conservation, and it's a whole state program, and they go around and interview farms just like us, and they're all over the state of Louisiana. you don't know. But once you start looking, there's more than you think.
Yeah. There's a guy in Eunice. I'll give him a shout out, I guess. Justin Fuselier.
Okay.
He's got Coastal Prairie Farm and Nursery, and he does his like horticultural stuff too. And he specializes in native plants and stuff like that. And they have a native prairie that they've established with like all the native grasses that were here whenever the bison roamed and stuff like that. And quail were here and all that stuff. And he and I talk pretty often, and he's got like a lot of information and know-how because he's done all this experimenting and stuff like that about, regenerating the soil and, making it better, rotating the cattle, animal welfare and all that kind of stuff.
Why? So when you guys talk about regenerating the soil, I mean, I have to say that my first thought is more about for the sake of agricultural products that a person might consume, meaning like, if I wanted to grow wheat or corn or whatever, you'd want to have better soil for that. Is the regenerative properties of your style important for just the well-being of your cattle, or are you making other, I guess I'm curious, like what impact does that have? And it sounds important, but I'm sort of curious, like what does that actually do for the average consumer?
This is like Hayden's passion, but before he gets into it, like an intro I'll say is, have you ever heard they'll say like the orange that our grandparents ate, it takes us 7 oranges to get that same nutrients because our soils are just depleted, right? So yes, it's important, like you're saying, for crops to grow and things like that, but there's also a nutrient density in our food that we've lost over time.
That would translate to even, say, animal products.
Yeah, so the steak that we're eating. Yeah, so the steak that we're eating isn't necessarily as nutritious as the steak that our grandparents had. Okay. So the easy answer to that, I guess, is to try to get the nutrient density back in our food through the soil.
Well, a lot of it's to do also with like food transport, right? So like we buy avocados from Mexico. How long have they been picked, and when were they picked? Because a lot of times they've been picked long before they're actually ripe.
Right.
So the fruit is getting cut off from its nutrition too early, and then it's having to be shipped here and it's been on the truck. It might be 3 weeks old, 2 weeks old by the time it gets to the grocery store. Yeah. Same with beef cattle and the 4 meat packers that are like controlling the whole meat supply and everything, like Tyson and stuff like that.
So soil specifically, the healthier the soil, the healthier the plants are, the more nutrition they have in them. When the cow eats it, that comes into more nutrition in the animal, the more nutritious beef. So healthier soil makes healthier plants, and when the cows graze that, they're healthier too.
Yeah, so that's where I was going. The steak is it's going to be like a couple weeks, 3 weeks old once it's in the store. From coming from Iowa, Nebraska, wherever those plants are located at. So that's the thing. Like the longer it's removed from where it came from, the more the nutrition levels in it will drop.
Yeah. Now, do you guys grow or supply anything else? I mean, I know your family background, you were doing crawfish and rice. Like there's a tradition, obviously, because it makes economic sense to be able to, this season we're growing this, and then we circulate our fields so we can do that. I mean, are you guys just doing cattle, or do you, as you're rotating, does that allow y'all to produce any other kinds of crops or products?
Cypress Prairie Farms only produces beef.
Okay.
We have, thought about like raising pastured pigs or chickens and stuff, poultry and stuff like that, turkey, whatever. Yeah. But it doesn't make sense for us to do it right now because of our management with the cattle. Mm-hmm. It would take like more infrastructure and more time. Obviously, like it's kind of ironic. The bigger the animal, the less the management that you have to have. I mean, we still manage the cattle pretty intensively. I'm out there every day. Yeah. But you've got to feed like chickens twice a day, pigs twice a day. You got to feed them, water them twice a day, make sure everything's there. If you're going to go on like a weekend vacation or something, you got to have somebody else take your place with it.
Sure.
I can just give the cattle, since we rotate, I can give them enough grass that's available. I can see, this will last them 2 days or whatever, but I can't give the chickens or the pigs that much feed. I mean, they have bulk feeders and stuff, but sometimes they'll flip it over or something will go wrong or it won't be working or whatever, they'll run out too early or something like that. So
short answer, it's the two of us and we don't want to spread ourselves too thin.
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes so the crop rotate. I could say crop rotation, but the rotation you guys are doing is in service of your chief product here, and so it wouldn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I hear you. That's really interesting. It is counterintuitive. I would have thought that a cow would be a much more difficult thing to manage. I mean, I think I've always been. So my mother-in-law has a horse, and it's just beyond me that a horse can develop so much muscle. Like, like a 2,000-pound animal just like eats grass all day, right? And I feel like all I see on the internet is people telling me how to eat like 12 chicken breasts to build any muscle, right? It's crazy what they actually do. I mean, as you guys have kind of gotten out and you're able to sort of hang your shingle about what you're doing, I mean, it sounds like you're out in the fields a lot. I mean, Molly, are you guys both managing all aspects of the business? Are you having to divvy up the labor? Are you more of the sales side? I mean, I'm just sort of making this up. Like, how does that work?
No, you're right.
Yeah.
We've kind of fallen into our natural roles, I guess. He's more comfortable out there with him. Obviously, if he needs help, some things, one person's not enough. So if we need to like round them up and pin them and work them or anything, like, I guess his seasonal farm hand for that. But day-to-day is like emails and market prep and stuff like that. That's me.
Yeah, there's a few times a year she'll help me, but I don't ask for much help other than that.
Yeah, I mean, is it a seasonal kind of thing where, okay, like you mentioned, for instance, you raise them until 2 years, or you having to really think about the life cycle of each animal and kind of where they are, so you have, I guess, product throughout the year? Or is it more of like, well, come November is when we're sending them to the slaughterhouse and that's when people will have meat?
Yeah, so it pretty much always depends on our forage quality at the time whenever we do send them. Obviously, we don't want to send them whenever they're just on like hay or not so good forage and stuff like that, because the reality is where we live, there will be times where the forage is not as good.
But by forage, you're meaning like eating grass.
Yes, forage, hay, grass, whatever. That's anything like that. So there are times where it won't be as good. So obviously we don't want to plan for that time, because you want the animal to be gaining weight at the time, which means there's still fat on the animal and stuff like that. So you're going to get a better quality cut of meat from the animal whenever it's still gaining versus whenever it's staying the same weight or losing. Sometimes they'll be losing. So we try to not have them losing, but
so we do try to time out and predict how much inventory we'll need to last. Like if we know, like right now, the ryegrass will kick in March or whatever, we don't really want to have to butcher between, like we're bringing some this December and we don't want to bring any until then because it won't be peak forage. And so you have to kind of think of how many do we need to bring now so that we have until then. And there's some planning that goes into it.
Wow. I have like a general familiarity with these kinds of operations, but not enough, obviously, to be expert in it. And so the thing that I've always sort of fascinated by is that, usually what you see is people kind of bringing this up as a premium product, but yours just seems so much more practically oriented, right? Like that enables you to sort of operate a business at scale with decent overhead, you know what I mean? Like, and is that just really the advantage of this style of farming, that like the expenses are actually not that high? I mean, it sounds like it would be whatever it takes to grow grass and however much it costs to get them to slaughter. I mean, like, am I missing what else is in the input there?
So I wouldn't say we focus just on the practicality. We do want to have a quality product.
Sure. Oh, yeah,
so, we do like an extra step that we take where typically grass-fed beef will get a bad rep. Yep. We'll plant like extra what's called cover crops. Yep. It's a short annual grass that will have more nutritional value than just our regular, like if you have a cow out in your yard or whatever. So that's like an extra step that we take that not everybody does, and that's an extra expense to buy that seed every season.
Yep.
So
so the cover crops will be like, there'll be at least 5 or 6 different species in there. They're just a lot more nutritious than the regular grasses that we have down here. They're short in duration. They're not short in height. Yeah.
It's always fascinating how much you can really just go deeper and further back on sort of the food chain to kind of figure out how, I mean, like you talked a lot about this, Hayden, like the inputs yield the outputs. And I think most of us are just kind of like generally unaware of what those inputs are. And so I'm always fascinated to learn, what it really takes to bring, food to your table. Molly and Hayden, thank you for joining me at my table here at Out to Lunch Acadiana.
Yes, thank you for having us.
My guests on Out to Lunch Acadiana today have been Molly and Hayden LeJeune of Cypress Prairie Farms. We edited this conversation to fit into our time slot. Here on KRBS, you can hear the full unedited version. Learn more about Molly and Hayden by subscribing to the Out to Lunch Acadiana podcast or on your favorite podcast app or at itsacadiana.com. If you want to see what we all look like, photos from today's shows are on our social media and website. These photos were taken by Astor Morgan. You can find more of Astor's work at astormorgan.com. Out to Lunch Acadiana is a production of INO Broadcasting for itsacadiana.com and KRBS 88.7 FM. The producer of our show is Grant Moritz. Our technical producer is Eric Merle. Our associate producer and researcher is Leah Urdialis. Today's show is engineered by Dylan Babineau. I am Christiaan Mader, editor of The Current, Lafayette's nonprofit newsroom. And to stay up to speed on what's happening in our community, head over to thecurrentla.com and sign up for our free newsletter. We'll see you next time for more business and conversation on Out to Lunch Acadiana. See you then.
Out to Lunch Acadiana was recorded live over lunch at Tsunami Sushi on Jefferson Street in downtown Lafayette. Tsunami is open Tuesday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, serving sushi, sashimi, salads, and authentic Japanese grilled dishes. Tsunami welcomes casual dining or reservations. More information at servingsushi.com. Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker. Established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys and offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by J.P. Morgan Chase, a partner in financial planning. Looking ahead to retirement, growing your business, or for commercial banking, J.P. Morgan Chase offers advice and solutions tailored to individual needs and client well-being. More information is at jpmorganchase.com. And by Luba Workers' Comp, a regional insurance carrier dedicated to providing reliable workers' compensation coverage to employers and workers in 13 states across the Southeast. With personalized service, trusted expertise, and tailored solutions, Luba helps businesses protect what matters most. Discover more at lubawc.com. Mitchell Foreman wrote and performs all the music on Out to Lunch. You can hear Mitchell's music anywhere great jazz is sold or streamed, and at mitchellforeman.com.